Came from the dirt with a match and a name, a whisper in the dark, born without shame. Old and white, with every friend that goes every truth.
Oh, dang, Judge. Well, start there.
These signed tapes are the sole legal certification that the recorded totals are authentic.
Wow.
Fulton County produced 0 signed tabulated tapes in early voting, as you just heard.
Georgia fraudsters lose again. You see, this order just came down from the state of Georgia, Fulton County Superior Court. Order denying the quashal. What the heck is going on right here? Well, you can see here this woman called Sherry Allen. She's with the Fulton County Board of Elections, and the Elections Board wants some files, particularly the rigged files from 2020 that we know are very perverted, don't even have valid chain of custody signatures, according to Georgia rules that are required for 315,000 give or take votes. So a big problem. So now Sherry Allen and the Election Board are suing Georgia. They're saying, hey, we're another government body. We'd like these files. Can you please give them to us? We have drafted a subpoena and sent them over to your booties to wrap those files up in boxes and ship them on over. But then what happened is the state of Georgia said, oh, no, we can't let you see any of these files. We rigged the election, obviously, so we can't let you see the files, or otherwise we're going to go to jail. So they responded. They said, we have to quash the subpoena so that it's no longer effective. Well, what happened, unfortunately for the fannies out there, is they just lost because Judge Robert C.I. McMurray, who is a known fan of election conspiracies, or whatever he calls them, he has not been inclined to indulge this conversation. And so he has come down with a begrudging order granting the request and the subpoena. In other words, the attempt to stop the subpoena now fails. He writes this, over half a decade ago, again, he's very begrudging, he doesn't like that he has to do this. On November 3rd, 2020, official electoral counts show that the majority of voters in Georgia did not select Donald Trump, President Trump, as their choice for president. Repeated recounts confirmed the result. They say that a lot. It says, nonetheless, some continue, like us, to insist that numerous state tallies and faulty votes, and that the rot behind them is centered here in Fulton County. That is an understatement of a century. Judge, did you hear Fanny just start testifying to your Biggie Smalls outfit? There's a lot of rock going on. The state election board, the SEC, or at least the majority of its members, have remained particularly fixated on this outcome. You guys are so annoying. Why do you keep asking about this? On November 5th, 2024, the next election, the day when a majority of voters in Georgia did select Trump, he's like, in 2020, it was free and fair, and you guys didn't win, but now they did win. Okay, what happened 4 years later? They did select Trump as their choice for president. What happened was, the state election board issued 2 subpoenas. Let's go. To the Fulton County Board of Registration, the DRE. They demanded that the DRE state, even though it was in the midst of the busiest and most critical piece of the year, promptly produced reams of information concerning not the current election, but instead the election from 4 years earlier. Okay, he's very upset. You can see. He's like, they're so busy. Trump already lost the last one, and he won this one. So why are we opening up old issues? Just let bygones be bygones. Is basically what he's saying. They're not even asking about the current election. But watch this. He's so bitter. As stale and ill-timed as these requests might seem to be to the casual observer, we're pretty casual here, they were nonetheless inquiries that fell squarely within their authority. Oh, no, that sucks for you. It says the law defines their duties under Georgia Law 21-C-31. Take that, gosh. They win. The law says they can do this. They have power that includes investigating, when necessary or advisable, the administration of primary and election laws and frauds and irregularities in primaries and elections. They can do it. As the board, they determined to be conducive to fair, legal, and orderly conduct of primaries and elections. It doesn't say only the most recent election, only the last election. No, it doesn't say that at all. Whatever election they want, they put up 10 years, they want 15 years. So evaluating how a particular election jurisdiction performed its vote and its tabulation responsibilities and reviewing the results of those efforts, for example, the ballots and the related papers, is part of what our legislature tasked the election board with power to do. Our Congress in Georgia said they could do these things, they're doing. And to obtain such election performance information, the board enjoys full power to subpoena persons and papers. Period. Full power, not limited power. If Fannie says it's conspiracy theory, then your power is eviscerated. That's not what it says. It doesn't say only power for the most recent election or the last election or any of those. No, it's power. Now, on November 18, 2024, after Trump won again for his third time, the due date set forth in the subpoenas, petitioners filed a petition to quash the subpoena. So Fannie Land, Raffensperger, all the Georgia Goon Squad. They said, these subpoenas are unreasonable and they're oppressive. Why? Because a white person sent them. They're oppressive to you. You work in the government. It's a government subpoena. Cry harder somewhere else. And they concern matters that are already resolved, according to the Fannies and the Raffenspergers, who nobody trusts at all. Now, after the state responded, so what happens is the board sues the state. The state says, we're being oppressed. You want our election records? No, you're killing us. After the state and Fannie and Raffensperger responded, the two sides came back and they asked the court to stay any proceedings while they discussed some cost-effective ways for the state to give the board the voluminous materials that it was seeking. Lots of election files over there. Now, this made the attempt to quash timely, although just barely. A party seeking to quash a subpoena must petition the court promptly, and in any event before the time specified in the subpoena. So even the Fannies and the Raffenspergers were like delayed, and they're just terrible at their jobs, and they just can't even run an election appropriately, or they did, they just rigged it. However, on the eve of the hearing, the petitioners filed an amended petition, the state trying to quash the records from coming out, that recast its claims from a quashal to declaratory and injunctive relief. Okay, so now it's a little bit different. Now they're saying, all right, they've got full power to issue the subpoena. The court really doesn't have power to quash it because the law, as we just read in quote, says that they can request people and documents. The legislature empowered them to do that. So they're going to lose this argument. They know. They're like, oh crap, let's try this again. Let's reframe it to declaratory and injunctive relief. We've already seen how the declarations and the injunctions work in America. All the judge has to do is they have just carte blanche, according to Judge Venus, Judge Boasberg, William Alsup in California, all of the other new judges who think that they're running the country, Amir Ali, Judge Chutkan, all of them. They just say due process. Oh no. And so an injunction is necessary to stop some. This procedural swerve where they're like, oh, we're going to lose that, so let's just change everything in the last minute, prompted the state to ask for time to file a motion to dismiss this new amended petition. Now, the court subsequently said, what the heck's going on? So we entered a briefing schedule. We said, all right, I don't know what you're asking for, so why don't you write some briefs on this, and then we'll have a hearing on this, and we'll have a motion to dismiss, and we'll address all of the claims. Like, you're changing your arguments. Now you want to come in and ask for other things. So, okay, fine. We're going to have a hearing on this, and brief it, write your motions, write your papers, submit them, I'll make a decision. So that hearing occurred not long ago, just a month ago, November 24, 2025. They drag everybody in for a hearing. Now, at the hearing, after considerable sparring over petitioner's ability to sue the state, so can the board even sue the state under this provision of the Constitution and res judicata, meaning you've already litigated this, like you don't get to try again and again and again. They're all debating this. There was a breakthrough. Oh my goodness, amazing. So the state agreed that Georgia law applied to the subpoenas, and they said, oh, okay, well, I guess, yeah, this rule applies, so you can demand these things. So then we lost all of that debate over injunctions and declaratory relief and all of that. We're like, no, all right, the original, okay. So then he says we reverted back. So then we went back, should we just quash the subpoenas again? Let's go back and have a more productive and simpler exploration of whether the subpoenas should be quashed for the election board. Judge McBurney says, they should not be quashed. They'll remain valid. Now, in the context of a motion to quash, writes the judge, the party that issued the subpoena, in this case the election board, they bear the burden of proving that the subpoena is going to get information that is necessary, it's relevant, it's support you need it. So the SEC has done it, the election board, writes the judge. Yeah, they did it. It's twin subpoenas, it's sent to seek information that is directly relevant to their roles, to the board's roles, and their responsibilities. Now, that information may be a tad outdated from the prior election, and the basis for that request is somewhat politically motivated, but all the records that they seek are election records. And if any state agency is entitled to examine election records, it's them. It would be the